بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السيدات والسادة الحضور الكرام، يسعدنا ويشرفنا أن نرحب بحضراتكم جميعا اليوم في المؤتمر المعهد المصرفي المصري الذي يعقد تحت عنوان Empowering Africa, Innovation, Sustainability and Women. نبدأ الآن بالكلمة الافتتاحية للمؤتمر ويلقيها الدكتور عبد نوصير المدير التنفيذي للمعهد المصرفي المصري، فليتفضل سيادته.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my honor to welcome you in EBI Conference, Empowering Africa, Innovation, Sustainability and Women. We are delighted to host in this special conference guests representing distinguished institutes from different African countries and our colleagues in Egypt from the banking sector. Over the conference, 2 days, we will all have the opportunity to share insights, practices, to engage and network with colleagues and experts who share the same vision of unlocking the potential of the financial sector and paving the way for inclusive and sustainable development in the region. The organization of this conference comes in accordance to EBI's strategy of increasing the diversity of its programs and activities with the African financial and banking sector in various modalities. The selection of the conference topics and areas of discussion reflects our alignment and commitment to keep the banking sector, leaders and teams regularly updated with the recent trends and practices in the industry. Globally and across the region, we are witnessing rapid technological transformation, a growing focus on sustainable, eco-friendly business practices, and an urgent need to empower women in the workplace while improving women financial inclusions strategies. The first topic, which is innovation, is in the heart of any change. The speed of change in the development of new products, services, or processes is significantly accelerating in today's world. The financial and banking sector face crucial decisions as technology shifts customer expectations and changes the regulatory landscape. Secondly, sustainability is another crucial priority and a key of any efforts that address the global challenges of climate change. Sustainable finance is no longer an option for businesses and customers alike to pave the way for resilient and environmentally conscious future. Finally, women empowerment is in the workplace, and women financial inclusion support are not matters of fairness and social justice, but also a strategic imperative for organizations and for the whole economy. Distinguished guests, I hope that the conference panels will stimulate valuable discussions and provide you all with the practical experiences and recommendations that you can implement to move forward, to deal with the challenges and achieve more success in the three mentioned areas. I'm also extending my deep appreciation to our distinguished speakers, moderators, and guests from other African institutes, as well as the Egyptian banks. Thank you, and I wish you a very fruitful and informative conference. Thank you.
شكرا دكتور عبد العزيز. ونتشرف الآن بدعوة دكتورة جيهان السكري Principal Socio-Economist African Development Bank لتقديم الكلمة الرئيسية للمؤتمر تحت عنوان Unlocking Africa's Full Potential, the Key to a Brighter Future.
مساء الخير جميعاً. Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Abdel Nossier, Executive Director of the Egyptian Banking Institute, colleagues at EBI, guests from the different African countries that are here with us today, and distinguished guests. It gives me great pleasure to be amongst you today, representing the African Development Bank at the conference entitled Empowering Africa, organized by the Egyptian Banking Institute. I'm Gehane Sokkary, and I'm working in the Human Capital, Skills and Jobs Department at the African Development Bank's Egypt Country Office. The title of today's keynote speech is Unlocking Africa's Full Potential, the Key to a Brighter Future. It cannot be more pertinent. Now, why am I saying that? Basically, the future is in Africa. Allow me to give you some facts. Now, we all know that geographically, there's been some distortion in the maps that we all get to see and that we've all seen as children. But actually, as a continent, Africa is larger than the US, China, India, Japan, and most of the European countries combined. So what we're seeing here is actually a very large continent. Africa holds 65% of the world's unused arable land, 30% of the world's mineral reserves, and 60% of the world's solar potential. It also has an abundance of what we call transition minerals, and these are the minerals that are required for the energy transition. So in order to produce solar panels, batteries, electric vehicles, and so on. Before COVID, and for 3 consecutive years, 6 of the 10 fastest growing economies were in Africa. In addition, Africa has the most youthful population in the world. And this demographic asset can become a powerful force. Over the past decade, life expectancy in Africa increased by 10 years. School enrollment improved, reaching 98% for primary school and 54% for secondary schools in 2020. Now, digitization. I think we all learned about digitization from Africa. It's well entrenched in Africa, and around 4 out of 5 Africans own a mobile phone. And of these, half of them are connected to the internet. Mobile technology platforms are working very well in Africa, and they've facilitated access to financial services. The mobile agri-tech platform have linked farmers to the consumers and so on. Africa is also urbanizing faster than any other continent. In 2020, 42% of Africans were living in urban centers. And in terms of climate change, Africa's forestry resources are positioned as a vital carbon sink. The Congo Basin forest is the world's 2nd largest tropical rainforest, and it plays a critical role by removing about $55 billion worth of carbon from the atmosphere annually. So I hope you can see why Africa is important. However, unfortunately, this progress was disrupted by COVID. Not only COVID, but also the global crisis that came thereafter. So the COVID-19 pandemic served as a wake-up call, highlighting Africa's vulnerabilities, particularly the health system in Africa. The number of hospital beds and the number of intensive care facilities are totally inadequate. The diagnostic and surveillance facilities required are insufficient. And Africa depends on imported medical supplies, drugs, and vaccines. The pandemic also had social and economic effects. In 2022, 22 million jobs were lost, and 30 million people were pushed into extreme poverty. And of these, mostly they were workers in the informal sector, especially women and the youth. Children lost half a year of schooling, and tourism, services, and the trade sector were disrupted. Not only that, but following the COVID pandemic, the Russian-Ukraine conflict came along and led to a sharp increase in global food prices and disrupted the fuel and fertilizer global markets. This triggered a food security crisis in Africa. Why? Because simply Africa is a net food importer. 15 countries in Africa depend on Russia and the Ukraine for more than half of their wheat imports. And of them, of course, is Egypt. Africans spend a larger share of their income on food in comparison to the global average. And poorest households can sometimes spend up to 60% of their income on food. As a result, 28 million people became acutely food insecure between 2020 and 2022. Third was the turbulence in the global economy, which greatly affected Africa. Public debt rose very quickly and reached $1.8 trillion in 2022. And in 2023, 24 African countries, that is about 44% of all African countries, are either in debt distress or at risk. And finally, conflict and political instability has increased. 11 of the world's 15 most fragile and conflict-affected states are in Africa. Refugees and internally displaced people have reached 35 million in 2022. The root causes are complex, of course, but something needs to be done about it. So, at the African Development Bank, we are aware that challenges bring about opportunities, and that's the way we like to see it. So, amongst this context, there are mega trends that create opportunities for Africa in the decade to come. And only last week, the African Development Bank was holding its annual meetings in Nairobi, Kenya, and the bank announced its 10-year strategy, 2024-2033, which rests on the foundation of optimism about Africa's potential to transform economies and improve the life of millions. Now, at the African Development Bank, we have what we call the high fives. The high fives summarize the way we want to do business. The first high five is Feed Africa. The second high five is Power Africa. The third high five is Industrialize Africa. The fourth one is Integrate Africa. And the fifth one is Improve the lives of the African people. So within the high fives and in our strategy, the main areas of our work will be harnessing the demographic transition with a focus on three areas: developing skills, particularly technical, vocational skills, but also technological skills and skills in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We are also working hard to create decent jobs and encouraging entrepreneurship and innovation with a focus on the new emerging markets, such as the creative industries, climate smart, digital, and artificial intelligence-enabled businesses. Third, we're leveraging the African diaspora to bring in finance, skills, networks, experiences, and connections to the continent. Now, in terms of climate change, we want to green Africa's development. And this is to be done by harnessing the vast renewable energy potential and exploiting the abundant reserves of transition minerals Africa can contribute to reducing the risks of climate change. In return for preserving its rainforest, that acts as a carbon sink, Africa should secure funding that helps finance a fair and just transition to a low-carbon future. The African carbon market has taken off, but both investments and pricing remain low. More investments in infrastructure of carbon market facilities are needed. And of course, we'll be supporting the development of green economy value chains in renewable energy, smart agriculture, sustainable transportation, waste management, water management, and carbon credit trading. Now, under Power Africa, we're looking at the investing in energy generation mixes. That would allow Africa to achieve a triple goal of universal energy access, increase in power supply, and decarbonizing growth. The continent can diversify its economy by becoming a major exporter of power and green hydrogen, as well as the derivatives such as ammonia. And as I said before, it hosts the transition minerals that are required for solar panels, wind turbines, batteries, electric vehicles, and so on. And that will create further opportunities for industrial development and export. We will also be supporting the technological change and the digital revolution. The bank will support the industries of the future that will look totally different than the industries that we have today, including new forms of production, such as those driven by artificial intelligence. It will also support the IT-enabled services, such as the mobile technology platforms, agri-tech platforms, and so on. And we will always ensure that the African youth are at the forefront of these changes. Under the high five related to Feed Africa, the bank is supporting investments in agricultural productivity, sustainable and climate resilient production systems, market development, and infrastructure. That will also help to prevent food insecurity, malnutrition, and poor health. Finally, we'll be promoting gender equality to close the gender gap. Promoting gender equality is smart economics. It's not just because we are women or we like women. Women are critical to Africa's social and economic transformation. Yet they're being held by structural inequalities in terms of access to education, labor market, access to land, access to financing, and so forth. It is often the women and the children who provide most of the unpaid labor involved in collecting water and firewood, and those that bear the health risks of using traditional cooking fuels. So to boost employability and to create more decent jobs, the bank will enhance the technical skills and support the infrastructure that meets women's needs. It will avail financing for MSMEs led by women, together with value chain development, digital platforms, and training. So I hope I've been able to convey the vast opportunities and potential that is available in the development of Africa. These opportunities will not only serve the Africans, but they will also have spillover effects and have critical impact globally, particularly in the areas of climate change, energy transition, and investing in young people. Now, the ADB in its work engages with different actors, including the private sector, in support of Africa's development. The bank has been active in Egypt since 1974, and our current portfolio includes supporting the energy transition and collaborating with the private sector in solar and wind energy, supporting wastewater treatment and desalination, enhancing the transport infrastructure, supporting the pharmaceutical industry, including the production of vaccines, financing of MSMEs across the different value chains, enhancing entrepreneurships and skills development with a focus on women and youth, and a focus on Upper Egypt and remote areas. So finally, I'd like to wish you a fantastic conference, fruitful discussions, and thank you once again for having me today.
شكرا دكتورة جيهان. نبدأ الآن الجلسة الأولى للمؤتمر تحت عنوان Banking Innovation Beyond Technology Reinventing the Customer Experience Through Digital Growth. ويدير الجلسة دكتور عمرو جلال Digital Transformation and InfoSec Expert and Lecturer، بمشاركة المتحدثين Miss Ingy Harraz, Head of Digital Banking and Innovation Retail Banking Group, National Bank of Egypt, Mr. Ahmed Salmy, Business Development Executive, IBM, Mr. Haitham Abou Head of Digital Banking, Emirates NBD, Mr. Amr Mansour, Deputy Chief Transformation Officer, Banque مصر. فلتتفضلوا جميعا.
Good morning, everyone. Actually, we have the pleasure to be with you today, and I'm very excited to be with those very distinguished speakers. We will have about 5 to 10 minutes by the end of the session to be able to get your questions. But if you have anything related to the questions that you believe we need to do it right now, just raise your hand and I believe we can have it. Okay, thank you. Actually, the problem of using AI in technology is very complicated. It's related to our life. We are facing this during all over our working hours and even in our houses. Related to this, we will talk about technological innovation and enhanced existing infrastructure. Some of the points related to this, you may find it as a nice to have while you are getting writing your email or something. You're getting suggestion from the AI agent telling you the rest of the statement that you are writing right now, and maybe there is something more complicated and essential things related to our infrastructure. For example, we used to use firewalls, we used to use honeypots and so ever. Then our security analyst getting logs out of these appliances and aggregate them, then provide you with, yeah, we have an attack there or where. Currently, I believe such kind of analysis is not usable without AI. Any one of us have used a SAM solution? A SAM solution? No one? Okay. Same solution, actually something getting the logs out of all our devices and aggregate them and provide us with a comprehensive analysis about what's happening. I have here with us Mr. Ahmed. Would you please provide us how can adapting Gen AI accelerate achieving strategic banking objectives?
Absolutely, with the pleasure. Thank you, Dr. Amr. And it's an honor to be with you here today with the industry experts and all of the subject matter experts in the banking industry that we truly appreciate being with them today. So first of all, I had the honor to participate here today because I think it's a very pushing topic, how we can adopt generative AI in influencing the customer experience transformation. Well, if we look at the customer experience transformation from technology business perspective, where it relates to the banking organizations, we see that it hits the key banking organization objectives and the scorecards, which means that they are the primary influencer for growing the revenue, managing the cost, utilizing the assets, and mitigating the risks. How does that happen? At the end of the day, the customer experience means that the customer is satisfied with his query and his request has been answered in a timely manner, in an efficient way, and he has a positive sentiment or emotion due to that experience. If this is achieved, then the customer will be a repetitive customer. You'll be able to cross-sell, upsell for that customer because he's happy to be retained with our organization. We will also make sure that we have the ability to, and we are lucrative enough as a banking organization to attract new customers. And that's on growing the business side. And on the cost management side, the customer experience impacts directly the cost management. And how does this happen? It's by the first point of contact resolution, which means that as much as I automate and I make the experience seamless in the first point of contact resolution, regardless of the interface, be it a WhatsApp group or a WhatsApp bot or a chat bot or a mobile app or through the portal or the internet banking engine, whatever the interface is, as long as I'm as a customer, I'm having an easy experience, a positive experience, and my request has been resolved from the first point of contact that I have plugged in with my bank, then this will impact directly the cost associated to that, which means at the end of the day, there's a very important aspect of the cost management, which is the cost per contact and the cost of overheads associated with the contact center or the customer care agents. And as long as this process is automated and resolved, I can free up the human agents to more complex tasks. And I leave the basic queries, the repetitive queries to the conversational AI engine, which can answer disputes, which can help me in open new accounts, reviewing documents submitted by customers. This will improve also compliance because it will reduce the human error. And as long as I automate as much as possible these repetitive tasks, I will reach better compliance scorecard. I will reach less cost associated to errors and to fraud-related activities. And this is, at the end of the day, it will enhance the experience of the customer and help me as a bank growing my revenue, optimizing my cost. So I would say that it is not an option right now. It is something essential. Studies say that more than 30 or 40% of worldwide banks organization are adopting AI in multiple scenarios across all the interfaces. And this is, it's being in two aspects, the conversational AI part and the generative AI engine associated to that, which is the foundation models, how I train them, tune them, integrate them with my back-end systems, make sure that the data is accessible in the most efficient way. So at the end of the day, I think, Dr. Amr, this is something that is every bank needs to have this Gen AI adopting agenda, because at the end of the day, it is key to achieving the banking objectives.
Okay. Thank you, Ahmed, for your very comprehensive answer.
Thank you.
Let's attack another important question with Ingy. Now we are in an InstaPay era. We are using instant payment all over the country. Would you please provide us about an idea about how can we improve payment inclusion? We are interested in payment inclusion.
Thank you, Dr. Amr, and it's a pleasure to be here among all of you today. I would personally say, and my conviction is that we are in an era of payments. It's king or queen, you name it, whatever you want. I would say that digital payments innovation is a main driver or a main gateway to the digital or to the payments inclusion and financial inclusion. So I would pick up from where Dr. Gehane was giving her speech and speaking about empowering Africa. We have seen that the first wallet was born in Kenya, and this was back in 2006, 2007 with M-Pesa. And this was why? This was basically because Africa by that time, or Kenya by that time, they had challenges how to move around or how to mobilize the money transfers. So this is where the idea of the mobility of payments were first introduced. And they started with a basic closed loop wallet, and then we started to evolve eventually until we went to the open loop wallets, and then the telecom started to step in, and then the banks started to step in. And we've seen how this has been evolved until we have reached back in not too far away, 2022, with the introduction and the born or the birth of IPN network in Egypt, InstaPay application. So I would say, before we speak about in details about where we stand today and how the remittances are changing, I would say, what is the goal of payments inclusion? Yeah. The goal of payments inclusion is to give access to all consumers or your target segments in the market for accessibility and usability for financial services that is convenient and that is safe, and that it is answering to their needs. Or the way I say it, there is no one strategy fits all. The service has to be fitting the requirements of the customers that you are attracting. And since we're speaking about payments and inclusion, then we want to not to have any parallel markets. We want to have everything inside the economy and the financial economy to be better regulated, and we are seeing how the controls are going. So having said that, this is the main driver and the main motivation. So having the motivation is we need to have this accessibility. Does this mean that we do not have challenges? We definitely have challenges. Right. So what are the challenges? Number one, maybe we do not have the digital infrastructure or the capabilities that are strong enough or efficient enough to have people more included in the economy. So this is where the capabilities of digital come in, with the innovations, having the infrastructures, having the ecosystem connected, having the regulatory context out. So therefore, we have this part done. The second thing is, maybe customers are not included because they do not have their needs satisfied. So a very important part to take care of, which also touches base on the customer experience, is when you are designing the product or the service. So in the development phase, you have to take in consideration, we are, as bankers, we have a very complex mindset. We sometimes put things the way we see it. You need to wear the customer's hat. You need to wear the segment's hat that you are attracting. So be careful when you are developing the service or the product. It has to address the needs of the customer.
Thirdly, also, I believe this is not an easy because the very large diversity of the customer backgrounds and culture.
Exactly. Exactly. It is challenging because you are addressing a huge population, so you have to try and make it simple. Different backgrounds. You have to try and make it simple if you really want people to jump in on your bus and go where you're heading. So you try to make it simple and convenient. And this is where the third pillar comes in on the challenges side, is that you need to educate, raise the awareness, don't give up. Customers have to understand how to use the service, how to register for the service, how to send money, receive money. For example, if we're speaking about the payments.
We have to go for that. I mean, sometimes we are not waiting until educating them. We have to do something to be able to provide the service for whatever the background of our customer. We can, I believe that people who is working on the customer experience is having a very challenging job here.
we're always having a challenging job, and I can see a lot of familiar faces from the industry, and we are serving a very vast majority of the clientele base. So yes, keeping the awareness in mind, it's not only waiting until the customer comes and tries the service or the product. You have to raise the awareness campaigns, targeted marketing campaigns. You can have different messages, depends on the segment that you are heading. So this is basically what we are speaking about in a nutshell, how to involve customers who are still out of the segment or the population that you are heading. And picking up on what I started with Africa, I will say that today with InstaPay, we are seeing tremendous amounts and volumes of transactions that are performed through this application across the network. And this means that customers adopt, customers learn. When they have the correct product, when they have the correct service, when they have the simple digital experience which is on hand, they can learn and they can start to adopt. So introducing InstaPay in 2022 till date, we're seeing the curve, or it's increasingly or tremendously exponentially inclining. And remittances are the key, as I said. So I think the payments will always be the core of the banking attention in these days, especially as well after COVID, as Dr. Gehane was saying, it was a wake-up call, so it was a catalyst. So I think this is where we stand today with the revolution on the payments.
Thank you.
Briefly.
Thank you very much. And building on what you have said, yes, we have always pitfalls during doing this journey, and that's my question to Haitham. How can we avoid the pitfalls during our journey to provide this?
Thank you, Dr. Amr. First, I would echo my respective panelists said that I extend my gratitude being here on such level of discussions related to the transformation and banking industry across the continent of Africa. The second thing, the transformation itself, in my opinion, in its larger scale and larger term, I will take it up than our industry even as a human and universe nature. The transformation have been there since the human being there to cater for the humanity need for the existence in the world. If we scale this down to the banking industry, unfortunately, one of the common mistakes that we do is that we look our perspective, looking to a transformation from a perspective of it's a strategy, it's a list full of projects, it has deadlines, and it has objectives that need to achieve. Dropping the fact, our way of that, it's a journey, it's an educational journey. It has to go within a list of pillars. All of them should go in parallel to be able to drive a successful transformation model, whether in digital or across the banking industry in general. We sometimes run behind the market competition, the massive evolution of technology, trying to deliver something that look fantastic, sophisticated, but in a deep solution-wise, it might not serve the customer as Madam Ingy said, it might not serve the customer need. In my imagination of the successful transformation to avoid such pitfalls is that the transformation has always 4 dimensions. Those dimensions all should stay connected, stay all together working in parallel to deliver successful transformation, which are the product or the service that I'm providing to the market and the customers, and with all what includes from the value proposition, offering suitable for the market and the customer. The second thing is the technology. It doesn't need that, or it doesn't mean that if I'm transforming a product or a service or an industry that I have to go to the most sophisticated technological solution to be able to provide that transformation or to say that I have achieved the transformation. The suitable one for the services and for my market that will help them to achieve will be the best one that I can use. The last dimension, I think, which is the most important one, it comes above all of this, which is the customer himself. The customer himself is the compass of any transformation. All those pillars and dimension has to move towards the customer satisfaction. Any design thinking or product innovation framework starts always from a customer need, a customer problem, And as we all know, by fact that the customer need varies and problem varies between direct, indirect, and even latent need that the customer himself might not be aware of. From those particular 4 dimensions, I think this is the first thing that we need to consider while we are creating our transformation approach. Those things that we have to maintain to be able to have a successful transformation and avoid the pitfall. I think the other thing that I want to shed some light on is considering that transformation as a technology uplifting or a technology revolution is missing sometimes the business side of it. In my opinion, I transform for being or for changing the business model that I'm operating with. It's not to use a fancy technology. It's not to use a fancy platform. I have to transform whether the partial on terms of solution or a complete business model that I'm working with. And this definitely has to be mapped to a clear KPIs and OKRs, which will make sure or assure me that I will drive my transformation in a way that will deliver what I'm looking for. I think on those OKRs, OKRs, or KPIs has to be, on my personal humble opinion, has to be linked to 3 things. The first thing is the financial. Definitely, we do business for financials. So that's the first thing. We have to optimize our cost, work on our operational efficiencies. We have to optimize also or maximize the revenues that I'm working for. That's the first thing. The second thing is the innovational part of it. I have to come with something innovation. I have to re-engineer my process. I have to lay out the facts of my processes to be able to achieve an operational model that's better than I used to. The third one, which I think most of us within industry, unless there is a clear direction coming, we're missing, which is the corporate responsibility. Working on a corporate responsibility and corporate social responsibility when I do transformation, like empowering the minorities, like the financial inclusion and payment inclusion, which Madam Ingy talked about, like the sustainability across the country and even the continent. Those are 3 things main that transformation has to maintain in order to avoid such pitfalls and make sure that we're driving our transformation the right way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Amr, would you please tell us about how to scale the digital transformation?
Sure. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I really admire being here with you and also with our friends from Africa. And thank you very much for the great speech, Dr. Gehane. It was very enlightening and lots of numbers and lots of challenges as well. It's super important that we know how to scale transformation. Definitely super important. I guess we have managed in the banking sector to transform how we give the right customer service to our clientele. I think we learned a lot from the telecom. We learned a lot from the startups in the market. Yes, we did. But I think the most important thing that we have learned that we need to fail fast. We need to fail fast in order to improve the services that we are giving to the customer. And the second thing, we need to have a user-centered design. I think you have all mentioned that in a way or another. User-centered design means that it's all about the customer. So it's in the center stage. We have to analyze, make sure that the customer gets the right service at the right time. I was honored actually back in 2009 in building the customer experience of the first mobile digital wallet in Egypt while I was working in the telecom. And I had the privilege to visit Tanzania and also Kenya, and I saw the experience. And they focused on one thing, one simple thing: outcome-driven innovation. Outcome-driven innovation, which means the job itself does not change. So I give you a very nice example. Listening to music. Does it ever change? It's always listening to music, correct? So since maybe 100 years ago, people, when they want to listen to music, they went to concerts to listen to music. And then it's the channel and the way they want to consume music changed. They want to listen to music while they are at home, and that's why they came up with this nice big machine inside their home to listen to music. So the job still the same. And then moving on, creating CDs, big CDs, smaller CDs. It's all about the incremental value that we are giving to the customer, but for the same job. So the incremental value is what? Is more songs, is portable. So we have the iPod, is going everywhere. So it's on our mobile now. It's on the cloud. Why? Because the storage now is immensely large. So it's all about, again, outcome-driven innovation. So we have all to target the market on first, user-centered design, second, outcome-driven innovation, which means we have to focus on the job itself. So be it the payments. So we have to focus on the payments, what the customer really wants. Is it P2P, P2M, P2B? And this is the job. And then there is an incremental value we have to provide for our customer. Last but not least, being agile. Being agile, that means that you have to, while you're innovating and come up with services for the market, you have to be agile, which means do not stay long at the kitchen trying to cook things for the customer. After a year, you launch a service, then the customer will lose interest. So you have to keep the customer interested with your service, maybe on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, adapt to the customer needs. So I guess by my final sentence here, I can conclude. So it's all about, again, agility, user-centered design, and innovation, but based on outcome. Okay. Thank you.
Maybe I add one small point to what Mr. said, is that in the era of agility as well and agile framework, listing the priorities of what I need to deliver to the market and the customer is an important fact that I need to consider while developing my transformation strategy. What to start with, what the market and the customer can adapt and engage first, then I can come with the second as a second priority. That's adding to the point that was said.
Okay, thank you for your adding. Actually, now we will talk about generative AI. Which one of us have used such kind of service? Oh, raise your hand. Hi. Yeah.
I don't believe them. There are plenty.
I believe most
they're
of
just
you.
not. You're being modest. They're not raising their hands.
Yes, of course. Such kind of powerful tool can provide a tremendous amount of knowledge, and actually a very powerful tool to be able to serve your customer better. And actually, this is my question to Ahmed. Would you please provide us some of the examples about how to use generative AI in providing a better service to our customers?
With pleasure. So I will pick up on what has been said by Ingy and by Amr, which is the outcome driven objective and be putting customer first. When we infuse generative AI, we are trying to interpret a vast amount of data that we have that is dissected, dispersed, and making sense out of it in order to make sense to the customer answering his query. So having the scenarios of how to adopt generative AI, it needs to come first with the targeted model of generative AI that I need to adopt, which means it needs to be industry specific, it needs to be trusted, it needs to be private, it needs to be open when I infuse generative AI into my organization. We might talk about governance later on, but at the end of the day, infusing generative AI means that I will try to automate as much as scenarios that I can in order to achieve my banking objectives. And I will pick on what has been said here about the offerings and the next best action and how to be agile and super proactive towards what would be the customer next move, and I should be ready as a banking organization to meet that, which the generative AI helps achieve by interpreting this vast amount of data. From the different automated tasks that I have been monitoring and analyzing in a certain given time, it will help the management to come up with the decisions based on these trends and the kind of asks and the kind of complaints and the fraud and the pitfalls of the technology versus customer intent. As much as this is analyzed and as much as this is integrated with the back-end systems, integrated with the marketing stakeholders and the sales stakeholders, if this is fused in the right way, this will accelerate the time to market for new offers. So it will open accounts faster. It will collect documents from customer and review it more efficiently and in more compliant way. As we know till now, maybe the KYC is still a very manual process. If you just look at the KYC or know your customer part and automate it as much as possible, and of course overcome the regulatory barriers and try to be agile in how to interpret this KYC part. Imagine the agility and the speed that you can acquire new customers with. And this all can be achieved via generative AI. So whether from opening a new account to automate a repetitive task or dispatching a new credit card, or I'll give you a very quick example. And this is actually from a courier company. You can now get your shipment tracked, picking up your location preferences, arrange for the delivery logistics, choose your preferred time, choose your preferred convenience around a parcel or a shipment that is arriving or anticipated. All of this can be taken seamlessly through one interface, very automated, without a single human agent interfered, because I freed up the human agents for more complex tasks. So if we let these basic tasks get automated in the right way, this will impact the customer satisfaction in a huge way. And this is where the generative AI needs to be plugged. And by time, we are observing that more and more customer scenarios are being deployed to the generative AI. Because at the end of the day, a key indicator of how healthy my customer care is or my customer experience is a couple of things. How is the cost associated to this customer is growing, and how this his asks are being deflected away from human agents. These all are ratios that, as long as I'm improving them, as long as I'm making sure that the customer engagement has been successful. So this is how we can plug in generative AI responsibly, because we all heard about the hallucination of the generative AI, the untrusted answers that can be biased to a certain direction that may harm the organization if it's not governed well. And so every step that I take towards infusing generative AI and automating repetitive tasks into my contact center, mobile app, whatever the interface is, I need to make sure that it comes with inverted scalability, which means that these areas that we're talking about, the healthier the cost associated is reduced, the better the experience will be. If I'm a bank and I have a customer service center that has 1,000 agents and I'm not being able to cater for customer requests, or the level of complaints and the NPS or the metrics that measures the customer satisfaction is not going in the right way, the solution is not by hiring extra agents. It's not by making the call center 5,000 agents. This is completely not the right way to scale in these areas or in these engines. The right way is an inverted scalability, is to scale down.
Let us clarify this, Ahmed.
Yes,
actually,
please.
For generative AI, we mean something like ChatGPT. You know ChatGPT? Yes. Any one of you used the 4.0 and your release of it? Yes. Yeah. Very impressive, actually. Yeah. The question is it possible to use such kind of tool to provide our customers with a better experience? The answer is yes. How to do this? A lot of actions.
Yes, but.
Yes.
Yes, but.
Yes,
yes, but.
Yes.
Yes, with a big but.
There is a big contrast between a consumer who's using a generative AI assistant for daily tasks and the banking organization that is deploying generative AI to increase the customer experience satisfaction. There is a big difference, and it all counts on the foundation models that I'm using for this generative AI. The foundation models that has to be used by a bank, as I mentioned, it needs to be industry specific. It needs to be trained and tuned in the right way through the data of the organization itself, and by not exposing it to the outer world of the consumer. Or which means if I'm training a generative AI foundation model for answering customer disputes in a bank, it has to be trained in that direction only, to make sure that it is ring-fenced to provide the most efficient answer in the most trusted way that does not harm the organization. And it shouldn't be treated as a fancy assistant that is helping a student achieving his essay. So there is a very
difficult balance here.
Exactly, and it will take time.
Actually, we know that OpenAI is an organization which is invented the ChatGPT, is currently providing business service relating to providing its agent to the customers, whoever the customer. But the question is, as you said, I'm not using ChatGPT. You are using something else. You are using the same engine, the same capability of thinking on related knowledge by each other, but you are not using ChatGPT. You are using a specific agent trained specifically for that kind of transactions, for that kind of customers, according to the culture of this region, whatever it is. Sometimes even you need to localize the way it answers by adding some native or slang language related to the country. I mean, اللغة العامية, the Egyptian slang language. So you are using the most powerful tool. You are using something top of the technology, but a very specific version of it, specifically localized and specifically trained according to your needs and your customers.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Okay. And this might lead us into the governance topic of the AI. In 1 minute, I would just like to stress that adopting generative AI in the organization without the right governance, this may lead to the wrong direction completely. And we need to make sure that it eliminates the risk of bias. It ensures inclusivity. It ensures that there is no discrimination in the way that the generative AI answers the query. There is a certain limit, there is a certain standard of ethics, trust, openness.
Yeah,
that
actually,
is associated with.
we will talk about this item specifically, yes, according to
Please.
our agenda, yes. But thank you, Ahmed, for your answer. Now, my question to Ingy. Would you please tell us how AI can support customer growth and success?
Definitely. As my colleagues were saying, and as Engineer Ahmed was saying, AI is something that we cannot miss on our agendas. And today, most organizations, if not all organizations, on their strategies, they have a section which is related to AI adoption and how these solutions can support. So we all agree that customers are the core of our activities. We are all customer-centric. We all agree that the customers are becoming more difficult to please because the market is very dynamic. The changes is the only constant. Our competitors are working as well on the same market, so we are all within the same game and with the same pie. So this is a very tough challenge. The customers are becoming difficult to please and our management are becoming more aggressive and demanding. That's very normal. Okay, so how can we do this balance? So I need to improve my sales conversion ratios. I need to improve my margins. I need to optimize my costs. I need to drive revenues. I need to do a lot of things. So innovation and technology on its own, we definitely all know they are nothing without an objective. They are there to support the customer centricity. They are there to support our objectives and our goals as an organization. So having said that, let me just speak about a very simple example that we all do. Let's take something from our life, our daily life. I step into my car in the morning and I'm on my way to work and I need to have a nice a companion on the way, so I just put on my music, any application for music, for example, Spotify, Anghami, Cloud, whatever, you name it. Today I'm listening to light music, tomorrow I'm listening to something which wakens me up, and eventually, after some time, maybe several days, a week, or whatever, I find that my application is popping up a recommendation for me. So basically, as a very simple human being, what do I say? إذا Allah ده واخد باله مني. It's nice, he's taking care of me. He knows what I want. This is basically where AI steps in with the machine learning and the algorithms that are embedded in these solutions. I'm speaking about a very simple example as music.
Very scary, actually.
Scale it, exactly. Very scary as well.
Because actually the suggestions is related to your current
state. Preference and my current state. So this is where the machine learning steps in and the algorithms. So basically, this is the perception that AI is playing on the mind. Actually, we are giving the data. We are giving the behavior. We are giving the patterns. We are giving the history. It's my interests. But eventually, it's playing around that the perception that this solution wants me as a customer to get to understand is that this is a personal recommendation for me. In a sense, yes, it's personal recommendation, but it is based on the data that I am giving to this application or to this platform. So accordingly, Anna as a customer, I'm happy. And a happy customer would mean that the next time I'm subscribing, and when the subscription comes up, I would definitely go for a 3-month subscription, not a 6-month, maybe a year subscription. And this means I'm going to pay more. On the organization side, this means that their sales revenues are increasing. The customer is becoming more loyal. And when the customer is loyal, this is how we are growing our business model. It's a very simple and basic example. Scale this up to the banks, for example, as an industry. We are all serving the customer. There is the turnaround time challenge. A customer stepped in a branch. He is submitting a request for a loan, and this loan, he is in need for this loan, and we need to process this loan in no time, in 24, 48, 72 hours, whatever. So here, where most of the organizations now are adopting, for example, the robotics process automation. Robotics process automation is a form of AI, is a form of you are eliminating the tasks that are repetitive. You want to increase, what is the objective here? My objective is to increase my productivity. It is very successful with the operations back offices because this is where all the cooking is going. Eventually the branch on the front side, this is where the customer is. And from the end-to-end process, I need to deliver as quickly as I can. So if we adopt, for example, something like a robotics process automation in the back offices, in the operations domain, you can eliminate some of the manual work. You can inject your criteria, you can put your scoring engine, you can put your scoring or your credit policy even, and you put what you feed in. It's exactly what the robot would do. The robot is a solution at the end of the day. It's a software. So he takes this information, then they start to process the loan. Eventually there is a human at the end of the day. They will take the decision, but you minimized the time frame from the customer submitting the loan request, walking in the normal or the traditional processes inside the bank until the operations take the decision and they score and they see the policy and so on. So we give the customer his loan, for example, in a shorter time frame. This can be done across different solutions. We have predictive modeling. We have customer support 24/7, and this is where the contact centers can step in. The virtual assistants across the channels. Predictive modeling, I said predictive modeling, data analytics, where we need informative decisions. We need to make informative decisions as managers or as top management. We need to have some analysis. So AI really is a beautiful tool. Yes. When we know how to use it, when we know how to make it adopted to what we want. And this is the beauty of technology. As I said, technology is there to support. So a happy customer at the end of the day is a loyal customer. A loyal customer means more sales, more targets are happening, more referrals to the bank or to the organization. We are optimizing our cost from a side. We are increasing our revenues from a side. Our margins are increasing from the other side. So I would believe that, as Ahmed was saying, yes, we can adopt, but specific to the industry, specific to the objective that you want, always try. And there's a trial and error. Don't go on big scale. Take a pilot, take one process, two processes, three processes. Start with the pilot. If it is successful, you start and scale up, and then you take the lessons learned, controls, and feedback, because this is very essential when you step in a new technology.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nothing to be said. It was all well said بصراحة by Madam Ingy وباشمهندس Ahmed.
And I would recommend that Ingy works in a technology firm because she's really talking technology.
Maybe I step into the technology away from business and strategy. That's a new thing to do.
No, we need her in the business, please.
Thank you.
So the only thing that I might conclude and add is that getting the benefit of improving the customer experience of AI, definitely the AI, as it was said, it's a very impressive tool that can cater for the dynamic market changes. As we were discussing before the panel, that it can reduce definitely the amount of workload on the human beings. It can streamline the process and eliminate the friction in the process. It could help in a different level. But I think the customer satisfaction impact should come mainly from, I'm very cautious, I'm customer centric and a conservative banker a bit when it comes to AI. If we will scale this to the transformation, I think we need to walk the journey again. We don't need to rush in this on this matter. We can use the options and the points and the services that AI can provide us on the back end in the processes. All what Madam Ingy said, eliminating the fractional process in the task. While when it comes to a customer as a contact point, I think yet we need to stay cautious to make sure that the customer will still satisfied and still getting the services at the same style that he used to do, till we convert him in an educational curve to be a UI driven customer as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, time is fly. One more final point is about the ethics of using AI. Actually, this was very strange to find an ISO standard related to using the AI and ethics of using AI. So would you please, Ahmed, tell us about your experience in this?
I maybe have hovered over this in the previous section. However, I would stress again that when adopting a generative AI strategy, we need to look at with the industry experts who are not targeting the consumer side of business. We need to look at the foundation models that has been trained specifically for what I want to accomplish. And this by adopting an open strategy, which means proprietary foundation models usually are built to generate revenue for the foundation model inventor, because they do it as generic as possible, as wide as possible, to make sure that it caters for the highest amount of hits and to reach the highest amount of consumers. This is a model that a bank should not be focused on. We should look at and we should differentiate between the generative AI interface, or the studio as we call, and the foundation model underneath it. When it comes to the studios or the interface in which, be it a chatbot like asking HR or asking IT or whatever the domain is, this is at the end of the day, this is the studio, this is the interface. This does not matter what kind of technology is or technology provider is behind this, because at the end of the day, it's an interface. I prefer this look and feel. That's okay. But when it comes to the foundation model, I have two options: either to train and tune these foundation models in-house, or to access foundation models that has been built specifically for my industry. Both are okay as a strategy, but one is very costly and one is much more affordable. Training and tuning in-house generative AI foundation models need GPUs, need a massive computing power, needs that I create and collect a vast amount of data and make sure that it is classified in a certain way. It needs a whole task that it may be very time consuming. So the best is not to reinvent the wheel, and going into an industry specific foundation model that has been built for the banking industry, has been proved already that it is working with leading banking institution, that the governance aspect has been already plugged in, the trustworthy, the openness, the ethics part around it. This needs to be very well addressed, and as I second Haitham on gradually going into and very conservatively introducing Gen AI when it comes to external customers. Maybe to the internal staff, it's a different story, because it's going to be around HR, it's going to be around finance, pay slips, payroll. This is very safe environment to pilot generative AI to serve my employees. But when it comes to customers, it needs to be taken in a pilot phases, very gradual, ensuring that there is a governing entity looking after the adoption of generative AI, and it has been applied and implemented by trusted advisors who can make sure that we are going into the right direction.
Yes, but actually this is the issue. I mean, the quality of the results that you will get out of your trained agent is depending on the ability of your organization to train it, the quality of the data that you will use to train, how large it is, and a lot of such things.
I think
doing this through another organization actually is, especially in banking sector, I mean, it's not that doesn't have that acceptable level in banking actually.
Yeah.
So yes,
it comes with challenges.
Yes, very challenging actually, very challenging choice to select which method to follow. But anyway, whatever the method that you will use, you should be able to identify if there is any biased or something related to non-ethical practices regarding of the data that you have used, and then we can tune this data.
100%, Dr. Amr. The challenges comes with any adoption of new technology and with new innovations. So there is always the innovation part and the technology path, and there is the challenges and risks associated. And this is where comes the governance. So if I'm looking at the classified bank data that has relation with the customer data, all of the private classified, and if I did my exercise as a bank of classification of data, then I will be able to slice out which are the data that can be accessible by the foundation model, and to which level and to which extent, and this is a matter of empowering the foundation model to access which type of data in which manner to provide what kind of output. And this actually comes and this is why there are technology industry experts that can advise the bank on the right implementation, the methodology, the approach, and all of the safeguarding that needs to be taken in order to not to jeopardize the classified data. And of course, when this trusted advisor steps in, he takes into consideration the regulatory part, which is very important.
Actually, CPE is preventing getting any kind of data on cloud, and most of the agents is cloud-based, and it is expected to be like this for a long time, actually. But I prefer, I am expecting that very soon CPE maybe change his opinion or add another features, something like having a private cloud relating to banking domain. And then we can have our agents related to this environment actually, and that will help to get a generative knowledge related to a larger number of customers. And instead of having our agent trained on our customers' data only, we can have it trained over at least our customer in the domain.
I would say, thank you, Dr. Amr, for bringing this up, because I would say that the Central Bank of Egypt is very conscious around making sure that there is a digital transformation path, and there is a kind of
a secure one,
inclusion, but at the end of the day, they never jeopardize the security, the modularity, and the coherence of the monetary system in Egypt, because the monetary system in Egypt is one of the most best controlled, governed systems. And the proof is that across all the challenges that we've been facing, it has been solid. People trust the banking system in Egypt. And this is, I think, this is one of the blessings that we have the Central Bank of Egypt in that, if I would say rigid, has led into this level of trust. And my experience with the Central Bank of Egypt, they are very open-minded to discuss new initiatives, but with the right regulations, with the right compliance principles in place. So they allow some scenarios, they allow some use cases,
Yes.
if I would say. They are very open to discuss. If we think about this IPN kind of technology that you've been speaking about, if we could imagine if this IPN 3 years back, to just have it as a thought, I think no one would have imagined that all of this cash flows in digitally in that way, in that convenience. We would have said this is a far-fetched scenario to be implemented in Egypt. But as a proof that the CBE and the regulatory is very open yet cautious,
Yes.
and this is the right balanced approach.
Yes, you are right.
Thank you. This
Ahmed,
is where we need
actually.
to advise.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, do you need to add something?
Yeah, actually, I was talking maybe last week with my friends and my colleagues, and we all saw that the generative AI, the AI, most of the reports were scary about how can the AI and generative AI will, unfortunately, will wipe out the blue collar and the white collars. So that a fear, the white collars will not have a job to work, maybe with the robotics. I don't think so. I think the human is irreplaceable by any means. Why? Because of 3 things: creativity and emotional intelligence and the critical thinking. So I guess the AI and generative AI, we should deal with it as we are dealing with any technological tool. So I think from my position here, and I think we all agree on that, we have all be responsible to educate and make sure that our colleagues in the banks, in the financial institutions, use the AI tool as if it's a technological tool, like the Excel. By the way, maybe tens of years ago, do you imagine that the accountant said that the Excel sheet did the calculation? Or the accountant said, we did the calculation, but by using Excel, correct? So I think it's very important now that we influence our colleagues to use the AI tools now in hand to enhance our productivity and free up some of the tedious jobs for us to be creative. And that's the major point here, because really this is what we really need to encourage in all our organizations.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Now, if you have any question, you have like 3 minutes or something, I believe.
I would just want to add something if there's no
Yes,
questions.
sure. Go ahead.
If just to, on a closing note from my side, because we have been discussing across the past hour how technology is important, how innovation is important, how it's all revolving around the customer. So technology needs to be used sensibly and reasonably to reach your objectives as an organization. As I said earlier, AI or adopting AI is revolutionary, and it's changing the landscape in different working environments. As much as it is a beautiful tool, there are some concerns. And basically, since we have been speaking about the regulations and the cloud-based solutions and why is this, it is all because of the data and the customer consent. It's all about data. And having said that, so if we are to adopt, and as my colleague was saying, as Amr was saying, we need to encourage, yes, as also Ahmed was saying, we need to have the proper governance. What I would say is that the adoption is basically has to be compliant with the data protection regulations. It also has to be aligned with the fundamental social values and the human dignity, because this is the ethics at the end of the day that we are all working with, whether we are in banks, in organizations, in whatever industry. It's the customer, it's the data, it's the ethics. We need the AI solutions to make us more productive. However, just basically comply with the human dignity and the data protection regulations. So this is just on a very quick closing note from my side.
If you allow me, I just need to add one very important point to what you have said now, is that let's remember that generative AI can help us in some really beautiful stuff like the people of determination and the accessibility that we can offer them via generative AI. Imagine the amount of satisfaction that the people of determination can have while having a seamless experience based on their needs via generative AI. This is as much as we have concerns and challenges, we have also very bright side on where the generative AI can help people.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all. I believe you enjoyed the panel. I hope so. If you have any question, please go ahead. If not, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
شكراً للمتحدثين بالجلسة على هذه المناقشات القيمة. والآن مع استراحة لمدة نصف ساعة نعود بعدها لاستكمال فعاليات المؤتمر. شكراً.